coming up on OC News. Find out how the EPA is working to protect Orange County from groundwater pollution.
Plus, hear how social media is shaping the minds of younger generations.
Then, hear an inspiring story of how this professional soccer player scored the biggest goal of her life.
This and more up next.
This just now in tech news, the first responder on the scene.
There's been a lot of collaborative efforts
I feel
over the
blessed to be here in Fullerton.
Brought to you by the broadcast journalism students
at Cal State Fullerton. OC News starts right now.
Thank you for joining us at OC News. I'm Kenya Staley.
And I'm Vanessa Castaneda. OC News is brought to you by the broadcast journalism students at Cal State Fullerton.
Orange
Since
County
the late
is facing an
1900s,
invisible
toxic
threat that
waste
has been lurking underneath its cities for decades, and hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent to address the problem. Orange County is facing an invisible threat that has been lurking underneath its cities for decades, and hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent to address the problem. Our reporter Philip Pachinovich is here to tell us more.
One of the most important resources in Southern California is water. It's used to keep our counties green and pools full. A lot of it is taken from a 160-gallon aquifer hidden beneath our feet. But what if I told you that the Environmental Protection Agency and Orange County Water District are fighting hard to keep that water clean?
Since the late 1900s, toxic waste left behind by industrial companies has been sinking deeper into Orange County groundwater. Sitting underneath Fullerton, Placencia, and Anaheim, the nearly 5-mile-long plume of synthetic degreaser, classified as volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, caught the attention of the EPA in 2020. Using past progress made by the Orange County Water District, they started working to create a general plan of action for the most contaminated area called the interim remedy. But that process could take up to a year.
OCWD started operating an extraction well in this area. One of the responsible parties, AC Products, they're over here, they have had 3 extraction wells. Other hotspot areas need to be addressed soon to contain the plume within this interim remedy polygon. Also, there's ultimately going to be potentially more work to address the rest of the plume outside of that polygon. Now, maybe that interim remedy is good enough. And it's like, you know, if what you contain in here, the rest will dissipate on its own. Or maybe, no, we need to do a little bit more. Or maybe by the time it gets out here, it's so deep, all you can do is, if a production well gets hit, put a treatment plant on that production well, wellhead treatment.
To make sure that doesn't happen, the EPA is putting 19 monitoring wells outside of the interim remedy, alongside Orange County Water District's 39. Some drinking water wells near the plume have low concentrations of VOCs, but well below strict California drinking water standards.
So you got all this clean water, maybe diluting that little bit of contaminated groundwater. So the bottom line is what comes out of the wellhead is below drinking water standards. So some production wells are so deep they're producing nothing but clean water.
While avoiding VOCs, the city of Fullerton found an entirely new pollutant in the groundwater, poly or perfluoral alcohol, otherwise known as PFAS, which can be found on some household items such as non-stick pans. The extent of its pollution is still being characterized, and a treatment plant has been built to clean an affected drinking water well. Sometime next year, another treatment well will be built on La Palma Avenue.
And the treatment plant will be able to treat both PFAS and the VOCs from the plume. So we're glad that that came up, and OCTA stepped in and paid for it. And again, it's going to cost the ratepayers funding to do this instead of the polluters, you know.
Because the EPA declared the VOC plume a Superfund site, funding for cleanup efforts will either be paid for by companies responsible or the federal government. It remains to be seen if PFAS cleanup costs will also be addressed by the EPA or result in more expensive water costs.
Should we be worried that the drinking water isn't safe?
Drinking water is safe. The Orange County Water District has very stringent drinking water standards. The only issue is that some wells will be shut down, and that could cost ratepayers money.
Philip, I know local officials are so hard to get a hold of, especially with COVID and the pandemic. How did you manage to get their input?
Just a lot of asking, a lot of emails, and that's pretty much it. But Mark Dave, he's really good. He was fantastic to work with.
That's great to hear.
With climate change getting worse and worse, we as consumers must think before we buy. Our reporter Brisa Colon investigates the dangers of fast fashion and ways you can start making more sustainable shopping choices today.
Fast fashion, an approach to the design, creation, and marketing of clothing fashions that emphasizes making fashion trends quickly and cheaply available to customers. The average garment in America is worn an estimated 7 times, and Americans buy an average of 68 new garments every year. Brands like Forever 21, Shein, Zara, H&M, and others are some of the biggest names in fast fashion.
Whenever we do use fast fashion, we're contributing to the fact that they make this material and they only use like 20% of it, and the 80% all goes to waste. So of course it's very wasteful and uses a lot of our carbon footprint.
Many scientists are warning about the troubles of climate change and are pointing to various human practices as probable causes.
All as a whole, I think it's very damaging to our planet. Not a lot of people know that fast fashion takes a toll on the environment, using water and all these materials, and at the end of the day they're just going to be sitting in a warehouse somewhere you don't know, and most of it doesn't get sold, and most of it is going to be in season for not even a season, like a month, because trends go like that. And for me, I try to stay away from it as much as possible.
To put all of this into context, the fashion industry emits about the same quantity of greenhouse gases per year as the entire economies of France, Germany, and the United Kingdom combined, according to the McKinsey & Company. A lot of questions go back to the production of clothes, and just as recently as 1990, more than 1/2 of the clothes bought in America were made here. But now in 2021, less than 2% are made in America.
Also creates a lot of unhealthy workforce, especially in the countries such as Indonesia and the Philippines. They use a lot of sweatshops and poor labor unions, and just really using their workers in the wrong ways. So that's why I decided to stop using it, fast fashion, because it contributes to a country that I'm very much proud to be a part of. I think we should definitely consider first understanding what you want and what you need.
But luckily, there are many solutions. Buying from a thrift store like this one, buying off of a friend, or even wearing a hand-me-down are just some of the ways you can shop more sustainably. Gen Z is spearheading the reselling phenomenon that is changing the way people look at fashion by building a community around clothes in a sustainable way. CSUF alumni Alyssa De La Rosa is a reseller that sells at various pop-up flea markets.
This is something that you feel part of. Oh, I can afford that. That's different than buying at the mall and online. So for our generation, people want to wear thrifted stuff, vintage stuff. There's a story behind their whole outfit. It's not anyone can just get it. You know what I mean? It's a piece that you can't find. It's pretty rare.
Jaron Ramos uses his creativity to be sustainable by making his own clothes out of recycled fabric bought at a thrift store.
You can call it upcycling, you can call it whatever you want, but I don't know, I just see clothes. I don't really see clothes, I just see fabric, and I'm if I cut this up, what else can I turn it into?
Many consumers have spoken out about their sentiments with the ways brands conduct themselves, and brands are hearing their cry. Many implementing healthier, more sustainable practices in an effort to not lose customers and be better for the environment. So next time you go to the store, think about where your clothes came from before you buy them. Do your research, and remember, moderation is key. I'm Brisa Colon, reporting for OC News.
The COVID-19 pandemic has caused hardships and health struggles for all Americans. A recent study revealed that the biggest issue was a spike in blood pressure. Nearly 500,000 adults were studied over the past 3 years from 2018 to 2020. These studies revealed that blood pressure has increased in adults just after the pandemic had started. Numerous factors can contribute to an increase in blood pressure, including weight gain, alcohol consumption, and lack of sleep. Dangers of high blood pressure include higher risk of stroke and heart disease.
Suicide is one of the leading deaths in America and needs to be acknowledged more. I got a chance to speak with individuals in our community to help spread awareness. Passing time is inevitable. Everyone goes about their own lives each day, but don't forget to slow down and take a moment to reach out to loved ones before it's too late. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death in America, and it can happen at any age. It could even happen in your own home.
It was just complete shock, like just nothing felt real. Everything, I kind of ended up feeling numb for a while until maybe like a week later when I really was like, damn, like he's gone.
Growing up, Cheyenne Guerrero and her late brother Brett were inseparable. As they got older, Brett slowly started distancing himself, battling self-struggles and mental health on his own. He took his own life at the age of 30. According to the World Health Organization, someone loses their life to suicide every 40 seconds.
So we are losing over 40,000 people a year in this country, more than traffic accident fatalities, more than murders. So we're losing more people to suicide. But you know what? It's not talked about. It's not spoken about. So I, along with other people who do this type of work, we want to raise awareness about this.
There are many helpful web pages such as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline with numbers to call as well. Though there are very few who like to speak over the phone, individuals can also text the crisis helpline and get assistance anonymously. Resources like these have been helping with the recent decline in suicide cases. According to the CDC's provisional data, suicide rates have dropped by 3% in April of 2020, despite the stresses of the COVID-19 pandemic. The decrease, followed by the previous 2% drop in 2019, came after suicide rates escalated 35% from 1999 to 2018. Being around the holiday season, be sure to spend more time with your loved ones. It is important to look out for warning signs.
So I think some strong indicators are social isolation, disengaging from friends, not returning texts, maybe not participating in social media when they were participating before, joking about death or suicide, being a little more reckless in general, giving away items or cleaning out their homes or rooms, especially precious items. So I think those are really strong indicators.
Many college campuses offer assistance in their wellness centers. Psychology schools also offer free therapy to those willing to be recorded for training purposes. Remember that you are never alone, and many are willing to help.
Just reach out to someone, talk to someone. Like, it's amazing how much better you'll feel just saying something, instead of just keeping it inside and feeling like you're alone, because you're not.
For OC News, I'm Vanessa Castaneda.
Vanessa, what a touching story. What was something that really shocked you when you were learning about all the data that included suicide?
Despite the fact that we've been in the pandemic and it's been very stressful for a lot of individuals, I was really happy to hear that, it's been dropped by 3% over the previous year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the families of everyone who's been affected by suicide is really thankful that you're getting their stories out there.
Thank you.
Well, coming up after the break, find out why Instagram officials are facing the Senate.
Also, find out how a mariachi band is breaking cultural norms. More on this when we come back.
In early October, news broke of a Facebook whistleblower, Frances Haugen, who revealed the social media company's lack of concern over the privacy and mental state of its users. Since then, the impact has on younger generations specifically, has become a growing concern for the federal government. Our reporter, Andrea Avil, brings us more on how young users are affected.
After a year of forced isolation, people everywhere have turned to their phones for comfort, though not all may have received it.
When the pandemic came, I think I spent a lot more time on like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. It wasn't good at all for like my mental health.
For many, like 17-year-old Sofia Serrano, endlessly scrolling through social media apps like Instagram and TikTok has made a lasting impact on their self-esteem.
I've been so scared to like even post my like face because I don't know, I just think I got into that mindset where I began to compare everything in my life, you know?
Insecurity is one of the common issues that generations growing up in the digital age face the most, alongside depression, anxiety, and a shortened attention span. With an algorithm that glamorizes reality for marketing purposes, these users are growing up with unrealistic expectations of what they and their lives should look like.
It probably starts around 8, 9, 10, 11, like where they're being exposed to those things. I'm sure they know who like Kendall Kardashian is, or Kendall Jenner, Kylie Jenner, Kim Kardashian. And then it really takes a toll on as they're developing into their stage of development where you identify, like you build your self-esteem, you build your self-identity. It takes a drastic toll because you have a hard time like identifying to who you really are to I need to be here, like this is what society wants, this is what I need to look like. And they don't realize they're so young, like you still have so much developing to do. You're gonna go through the awkward, stage.
As a result, a fear of not belonging and a fear of missing out, or FOMO, is developed and makes the ability to disconnect more difficult for users. It might be hard for many to wrap their heads around the idea of a social media addiction as a real concept, but its acknowledgement might be necessary in order to confront its effects on the mental health and stability of younger users.
It's kind of like a drug. We're not really addicted to the drug. We're addicted to what the drug, how it triggers the release of certain neurotransmitters in our brain. Okay, and then serotonin or dopamine, whatever the neurotransmitter is, that gets us to feeling pleasure. And so that's what drugs do. Well, this does the same thing. It's just triggering the release of those neurotransmitters.
And while many might notice the negative effects individually, the addiction to phones and the internet have led to generational changes.
Narcissism is kind of normal for today's young generation. Like it's normalized to be focused on meeting my needs and me needing validation, and perhaps there's a little bit of inability and trouble being empathic towards others and putting yourself in their shoes and really putting aside you and focusing on others.
There are currently no government regulations on what and how social media companies use the extensive personal data they collect from their users, which might be for lack of awareness. However, senators like Kirsten Gillibrand are working towards creating a federal agency that would focus exclusively on regulating such companies. Until they do, I'm Andrea Elvier, reporting for OC News.
Social media platforms have recently taken a lot of heat when it comes to the effects that social media has on our youth. Chris Adler is here in studio to tell us a little bit more about which social media platforms address these concerns today in the nation's capital.
That's right, Vanessa. For the very first time, Instagram CEO Adam Mosseri sat down in front of Congress to address hard-hitting questions about protecting children under 13 from accessing Instagram. This meeting comes after leaked documents left lawmakers concerned with what the social media platform was doing about protecting young children from potentially harmful content. Mosseri saying he will work diligently to make sure that no child between 10 and 12 can access an Instagram account without explicit parental consent.
That said, I understand that developing policy takes time, so we're going to continue to push forward on the safety and well-being of young people online. On age verification, we're developing new technologies to address this industry-wide challenge. We're creating a menu of options to allow people to verify that they're old enough to use Instagram, that extend beyond simply relying on an ID card.
Mosseri stands by Instagram and says protecting the youth is paramount, saying, quote, Keeping young people safe online is not just about one company calling for all industry leaders to collectively create new standards. Back to you, ladies.
Do you ever find yourself mindlessly scrolling through Instagram? A new update may help you close out the app. In an attempt to get users to spend less time on the app, Instagram will experiment with a new tool called Take a Break. If selected by the user, an alert will pop up after a certain amount of time. While the tool is in the early stages of development, Instagram is expected to roll it out before the end of the year. Additionally, Instagram is taking a stricter approach to content it recommends to its teenage users.
With over 4 billion users, social media connects people around the world. But what are the burdens that it comes with? Dina Soto is here with us with more on the story.
Yes, Vanessa and Kenya, social media has impacted our content usage and managed to raise users' insecurity based on the perfectionism seen online. But how are people reacting to this new norm? Let's take a look. Unrealistic and idolized body images in the magazine industry have affected people's mental health for decades. Now, the same issues of body insecurity are bombarding people through various social media platforms.
Social media is so attractive because we get to curate what media we consume. Once you follow certain accounts or engage in social media, you start to build a community.
Thanks to smartphones, social media users can instantly access a range of content from lifestyle and fitness to fashion and makeup. The average user spends 2 hours and 24 minutes each day scrolling through content.
So seeing millions of people online and comparing yourself to others is unnatural. So all of that create brand new types of stressors for everybody.
According to a poll by Pew Research, millennials and Gen Z happen to engage in at least one social media platform. These age groups happen to be the most affected mentally due to the rise of social media content, since it brings up insecurities or comparisons in their personal lives.
Seeing a perfect life or a perfect way of presenting, a lot of time kind of trigger our anxiety, our depression.
Subtle touches made to an image may go unnoticed, but to others like Jennifer Argueta, it stirs up insecurities.
Like when you're on social media, at least like Instagram, for example, like you see photos and people living their best life and just like photos in general. And like for me, it's hard to not compare.
Content from your favorite celebrity can be entertaining, but it can also become a harmful environment if taken too seriously. If you want to seek help for your mental health, experts do recommend opting to therapy sessions, which could be available virtually through a phone call or even a text message. Resources can even be available at your campus, but there are a few things you can do right now to shift your perspective and improve your social media usage.
Limit the time per day, unfollow everyone that creates unrealistic expectations.
Social media can be distracting, but there should be some sort of balance. Users are taking on a new hobby or setting new boundaries to improve their mental health.
Getting out with the nature makes me feel kind of like relaxed. Like I don't have to worry about what I'm seeing. I don't have to worry about what's going on. I just kind of just focus in that moment, in that time, hiking and just kind of being by myself.
Social media will only get more advanced, and users should become more aware of what happens behind the scenes because all content that is carefully selected to obtain that infamous like. In downtown LA for OC News, I'm Dina Soto.
Which gender is most specifically affected by social media content?
So statistics have shown that women and younger girls tend to be most affected by social media content because when they follow their favorite celebrity, they could compare little nitpicks about that rather than men. So yeah, we tend to see that increasing, but yeah.
Do you have any advice for like those younger women that are on Instagram all day scrolling and comparing themselves?
Try to limit your usage and maybe just follow people that affect you positively. Follow social media platforms that like quotes rather than those that affect you mentally.
Yeah. I'm gonna take that advice for myself.
Same here.
12,000 followers on Instagram, this mariachi band is connecting with people across the world, but not just through music. Our reporter Samantha Aguilar has the story.
Violins, guitarrones, vihuelas, and trumpets not only create the beautiful, unique sound of traditional mariachi music, but they also heavily represent hometown traditions and embrace cultural values. While these traditions and values are of importance to the music's roots, in the 21st century, a time where norms are being challenged, Mariachi Arcoiris of Los Angeles is doing the same in more than one way.
At the end of 2015,
something happened. Maybe it was like a snark remark or something that somebody said, but it was sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back, and that was like the deciding moment. And I said, okay, I'm gonna start Mariachi Arcoiris. I needed for there to be a safe space for myself and for other musicians like myself, where we can perform our beautiful mariachi music that we've inherited, and do it in an environment that's free of the discrimination, free of the bullying.
The first LGBTQ mariachi band, Mariachi Arcoiris, originated in the year 2000 at Cal State LA. Musical director Carlos Samaniego originally created the group for a one-time Pride Week celebration. But Carlos found the need to recreate the group 15 years later to create a space where himself and others could genuinely express themselves.
That means that if I'm gonna sing a song about love or about betrayal, I'm gonna sing it to another guy because I'm gay and that's how I feel that I should direct myself to, right?
My big thing, like in everything I do, is representation, right? For queer people, for brown people, for fat people, for femme people, And so just seeing these parts of me that I never thought could coexist, on stage, being presented so proudly, because I saw them at LA Pride, which is like huge. It was just a magical moment. It felt like home.
Mariachi Arcoiris' Natalia Melendez also makes history by being the first transgender woman in mariachi history. But being the first comes with challenges.
I personally, I wasn't getting hired for work when I was freelance. I'm a transgender female, and they were thinking some misconception of me, which was not true.
Mariachi was born in the 19th century and has always been a male-dominated space. From musical lyric to traditional charro suits.
It is hard for people to grasp us in the beginning until they see what we really do in our show. Some people have the misconception of you're a gay mariachi, so it must be this certain kind of way.
Even with the challenges the group has faced, their success over the past few years has ultimately proven to them that there's no better time and no better way to open doors than challenge norms.
We're doing something that needs to be done because people need to reference back to something that was, and they can use us as an example, and they can see, and then they can dream, then they can believe in themselves, and then they can act upon it. That's what we really try to do, inspire.
Mariachi Arcoiris hopes that they continue to inspire others to also challenge norms and continue opening doors. From Los Angeles, I'm Samantha Aguilar.
When we get back, find out how a bodybuilder overcame a life-changing obstacle in her career.
And in case you haven't had the time to keep up with Hollywood, we're bringing you all the latest news on some of your favorite celebs. Stay tuned.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays.
We don't have time for spills.
Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
Getting the flu shot
helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you too.
Can I get the now bar, please?
$1.
Have a good one.
Got it.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
Let me get a now bar.
Sure.
$1.
Appreciate you.
Got it.
We all have goals and dreams, but what happens after you achieve them? Reporter Brianna Shipp has a story that shows us what the professional athlete does with her life after she's hung up her cleats.
Thank you, Vanessa. Women have always been the underdog when it comes to sports, while men have always been portrayed as being the more dominant athletes. However, recently we have seen women make huge strides for equality within the sports world. I had the privilege to speak with a women's professional soccer player that is making it her life goal to use her voice and platform to advocate for young women in sports. The story of an athlete's journey can be the most inspiring. This statement is very true when it comes to professional soccer player Jen Munoz. Jen started playing soccer at just 4 years old. She knew from a young age that this was what she was born to do.
When I was little, I've always wanted to play pro soccer. I know in first grade I would write in my notebook, like it would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I would say, "Pro soccer player."
Jen spent the majority of her time playing club soccer, but when she got to high school, she accomplished what every student athlete dreams about. Jen attended Capo Valley High School in Mission Viejo, California. Her freshman year was dedicated to the scouting process to try and receive a college scholarship. Just 1 year later, and only a sophomore, Jen had committed to pursue her collegiate career and play for the University of New Mexico.
The motto is be a great soccer player, but an even better person and an even better teammate, which led me to Mexico, where I took those traits and qualities that I learned at New Mexico to my professional soccer team.
After an astonishing collegiate career, Jen had the opportunity to make her lifelong dream come true. She had signed to play for a professional soccer team in Mexico, Club America.
I tried out and they loved me and they offered me a spot, so I had about maybe a week to decide to move to Mexico, another country, and I made that leap. I got out of my comfort zone and I got there.
Jen has accomplished her biggest goal, and that was to become a professional soccer player. But she's not stopping there. Jen is an advocate and inspiring young women all around the world to follow their dreams on and off the field. Jen was recently honored with an award for Latina influencer and advocate for women's soccer from the AIA Foundation.
I was really proud and very humbled to receive it, and it just shows that, I want to keep doing more for the Latin community and just for women's soccer.
The AIA Sports Foundation stands for Empowering Leadership in Latina Athletes. They focus on helping young female athletes get in a better position to have equal opportunities in their sport that could benefit their future.
Not only she played the sport, but she's also a professional. She played for the national team as well in Mexico. So she had a bunch of, she had quite a bit of a resume on her own. We decided, I think this is going to be able to be, she could be the face of what we're trying to do. And which is basically guide parents, guide players, figure out a way financially for the parents to not spend so much money, if any, and to be able to get the best of what they can have, meaning the player, their daughter has good grades, she can play the sport. I'm sure someone in college wants her.
Jen has always advocated for young women in sports. She wants to be the role model for young girls, similar to how Carly Lloyd and Alex Morgan were for her growing up.
I certainly think she's starting to figure out that she has a voice that she can help, and even when Jen first got to New Mexico, she was very much, she wanted to make sure that people that wanted to play had the avenues to do so. And I think because of her platform that she's, rightfully kind of earned with soccer and her sort of social media and some other platforms, I think she's realized that voice can be really helpful to advocate to make sure that other people have the pathway to get to where they want to go.
In the next 5 years, I hope to advocate more women and influence a whole generation of younger girls or, girls my age. I think that women's sports is growing intensely, and I hope that it continues to grow.
I'm Brianna Shipp reporting for OC News.
So what is Jen up to now?
So unfortunately, Jen has decided to hang up the cleats and retire, but she's still highly involved within the community, especially in soccer. And she has over 280,000 followers, I think, on Instagram. And she's using her platform and her social media platform to really advocate for women in sports, especially in the Latina community. And that's what she plans on doing for the next 5 to 10 years, is just being a sole advocate for women in sports.
Great.
It's amazing. Well, from one athlete to the next, have you ever wondered about the preparation female bodybuilder athletes go through to look the way they look? Our reporter Jonathan Soto had the chance to meet one and find out.
Inspired by the ancient Greeks, modern-day bodybuilding has been around since the late 1800s. It wasn't until the late 1900s that strong men in Europe gave weight training a new meaning: weightlifting for entertainment purposes. Women did not come into the picture until the early 1980s with the first Miss Olympia competition. The sport eventually evolved into physique and bikini categories. Meet Itzel Gomez, a personal trainer and amateur female physique and bikini muscle athlete, who recently competed in her second physique show.
It wasn't until I
graduated high school when I started working out. Like I liked just like the feeling that workout gave me. And when they opened a gym across the house where I was living at, that's what I got interested onto going into working out.
Growing up, Itzel was always athletic and knew she wanted to pursue a career in fitness, and in 2019 finally caved in and competed for the first time.
I met this girl at the gym, and then she was into that, and that kind of like pushed me to actually do it. And from there, it had just probably been like a year or two since, you know, I will see people doing the shows, and I was, you know, I want to do it, I want to try it. I didn't know, like, you know, how hard it was going to be.
Soon after her first show, she began prepping for her next show when suddenly the unexpected happened.
And I kind of like took a few months off, and then I was going to do another one, and I was actually prepping myself for another one when I became pregnant. It happens, right? So I went through with it, my pregnancy, and it was kind of like exciting as well to see my body go from like the state I was, competition prep, and then through pregnancy and, you know, starting to gain weight, and then knowing that I had a baby.
It was a tough road for Itzel to get back into her routine after having her baby, so she sought help from a bodybuilder veteran, Coach Brown.
I thought she had a long way to go. She just had a baby, but she's done real well. A lot of people think motivation has a lot to do with it. Motivation is fleeting. It might get you started, it won't sustain you. It's determination, perseverance.
Some athletes are known and encouraged to do steroids for muscle shows like this one, according to Itzel, but not in her case. She wanted to go about it 100% natural for herself and for her 1-year-old son, whom she is still breastfeeding. Her trainer had her on a strict high-protein diet and required her to work out 6 days a week, with one day being strictly only cardio exercise. The only supplements Itzel consumes are amino acids, pre-workout, and protein. Working as a trainer really helped Itzel to stay focused and motivated during her show prep.
Women who want to step their physique and build up their confidence to the next level. A lot of people after their pregnancy, they tend to lose that, but Itzel is a perfect representation of what they could potentially do with themselves.
With the guidance of Coach Brown and her support system, Itzel took the stage once again on November 13, 2021.
I got 4th place out of 9 on the first one. And then on the second one, which was the Bikini Open, I got 3rd place out of 6 contestants. So I'm pretty happy for the physique I brought and for, you know, being a mommy.
Itzel describes this sport as hard but rewarding, as it requires a lot of discipline and commitment. She hopes to compete in more shows and is currently bulking to put in more muscle. I'm Jonathan Soto in Baldwin Park, reporting for OC News.
Over in Hollywood, we have the People's Choice Awards, Nick Cannon's baby news, and Drake taking a stand against the Grammys. Nylene Garcia has more on the story.
Thanks, Kenya. I'm Nylene Garcia, and here's what's happening in Hollywood. Last night, the People's Choice Awards took place at the Barker Hangar in Santa Monica. The star-studded event had everyone in attendance, from your favorite influencers, athletes, singers, and more. Well, the list goes on and on. But the one moment that stood out from the rest was Dwayne Johnson's acceptance of the People's Choice Champion Award. The Rock invited Make-A-Wish recipient and cancer survivor Shoshana on stage to honor her and gave his award to her, stating, quote, "Because you represent everything that it means to be a people's champion, this one's for you," end quote.
I'm here because
Nick Cannon's 5-month-old son, Zen, has passed away due to brain cancer. Doctors discovered fluid building up in the infant's head, and a malignant tumor required brain surgery. Post-surgery, the tumor began to grow a lot faster. Cannon shared on his own talk show that this weekend was the last time he held his son. He applauds mother Alyssa Scott for her strength and compassion during this tough time. Award show season is upon us. We all know that the Grammys are exactly what every musician strives for, except this one. Drake's Certified Lover Boy album was nominated for the Best Rap Album, along with Way Too Sexy for Best Rap Performance. The rapper has expressed his dislike for the award show, stating that there is a disconnect between impactful music and award shows. In 2019, he also called the award meaningless while accepting his gramophone award on stage. Well, that's a wrap for this week, guys. I'm Nylene Garcia, and that is what's happening in Hollywood. Back to you, Vanessa and Kenya.
Christmas time is turning into Miller time. The popular beer company is taking Christmas to the next level with drinkable ornaments. Miller Lite drinkers can now take sips of ice-cold beer in their new beer-naments. The Miller Lite ornaments come in a set of 6 and snap around an 8-ounce can. The beer is not included. Thank you for joining us for the final episode of our semester. Our next episode comes to you in February.
In the meantime, be sure to subscribe to Titan TV for all the latest updates. From all of us here at OC News, have a great night.